Welcome, everybody, to the Raad Life, the only talk radio show that takes you along with host and age explorer Rod Gantos on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older. The Rad Life is brought to you this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Rod Gantos.
First and foremost, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
and
Valentine's
the,
Day.
and the start for us good Irish Catholics here, the start of Lent, as demonstrated by the best Catholic in the room here, who actually has been to Mass and got the little ashes already.
Making us feel a little like, wait a minute, we're kind of at the bowl today. So.
Yes, I did not plan that, well ahead to come in and do a radio show on a day of fasting and a day of holy obligation.
Yeah.
So thank you for, if I become low energy Ashley, you might have to cut me some
I
slack today.
I have a feeling that's not going to happen, one, and I think, I appreciate the Girl Scout cookies, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Now, you were telling me about these.
She even brought the engineer Girl Scout cookies. That's thoughtful. She didn't just give the host. Usually the host gets them. I get
Did you
nothing.
see the sign on the door, by the way, when you walked in?
It was pointed out to me. Hey, Girl Scouts, we take care of each other.
That's
We
right.
take care of the community.
Let's take care of you and get the mic a little closer to you there.
All right.
Okay, so you were telling me about these cookies.
Yes.
And they're your favorites because?
Because they say thank you in several different languages. So it'll say che, merci, gracias, and thank you. So it's one of the newer cookies that really celebrates that Girl Scouts are all over the world and celebrate any girl from any community, any faith background
Diversity.
is welcome in Scouts.
Wow, diversity. I love them.
Thank
I
you.
might just keep them, like I'm not open them.
Just don't eat them in front of me. I'm hungry.
I'm putting these away. Thank you for that. Okay, so introduce yourself.
So my
we
name
know
is...
she's Catholic. That's all we know is because she's got the ashes on her forehead from Ash Wednesday. Here.
Yeah, so my name is Ashley Aitken. I am a trial lawyer at Aitken Cone in Santa Ana, and I am running for the Mayor of Anaheim, my hometown where I was raised.
Do you think you're going to catch him? No, that's an old joke. Okay, you're running for the mayor. So, so you were raised in Anaheim?
I was, yeah.
You are in top form today. Aren't
I'm
you,
ready
Paul?
today.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was raised in Anaheim. I went to school. I am a Knoll Canyon Roadrunner and an El Rancho Coyote, and then went to Rosary High School in Fullerton. But yeah, I was raised since I was a little kid and bought our first home. I'm about a quarter of a mile from the house I grew up in.
Wow.
So very near my parents. So depending on your relationship
Wow.
with your parents, you either think that's great or really weird. But I love that my parents can come over every day.
My parents live 10 minutes away from me in San Clemente. My sister and her family live about 5 minutes away from me.
Wow, you guys
So,
are
my
from
sister's
another
like a
era.
buffer between me and my parents. I guess they're in the middle. But yeah, no, I come from an extended family too, so I can appreciate that. Actually, I think it's wonderful when you are fortunate enough to have that support system kind of growing up. So
Yeah, and I'm the mother of 3 girls, and so having their grandparents near them is a blessing,
Yeah.
both for me as a working mother and really just such a blessing for them. I love that intergenerational mix, and my husband is from Tustin, so his parents still live just over the hill.
that's so cute.
Yeah, so we
Very
have lots
cool.
of family, and we're all enjoy being very close.
Well, and Ashley, I don't know if you know, but when we first started the show, it was because Foolish Paul over there basically said, we want to do a baby boomer show, and we don't know how or what it's going to feel like. And I started talking about aging in place, and he said, okay, you're it. You got to do this baby boomer show. So we actually do cover things like multigenerational. We cover things like seniors and veterans, right? And I know a couple of these things are very near and dear to your heart. But, Orange County is changing. And I know you're running for Anaheim, and we were talking before the show that as goes Anaheim, so goes the county, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean it really is a powerhouse, and it really does drive a lot of things.
Disneyland,
Right?
the Angels, come
Yeah,
on.
but
right.
tourism, the visitors center, the convention center. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens out of Anaheim. It's also a very diverse community with some ethnic groups in there, and then Garden Grove is right next door, and so it's a kind of an interesting. I think it's kind of come into its own kind of again.
And where is
I mean, it's always been great, but then it kind of went into a lull, and now it lasts about 10 years or so. It seems like it's been having like a renaissance in Anaheim. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think that having been a lifelong resident, I truly have a passion and a love for my city like no one else. And it's very prideful in that we are not just the economic engine of
Right.
Orange County, but we're the largest city. And we really are on the forefront of a lot of these issues. And it gives us, while I think you can look at it and say, oh, that can be really scary for the leader of a city. I look at it as an immense opportunity to really, be the pinnacle and be the leader on some of these issues that are facing not just Anaheim, but all of our cities. But we really have done a great job about taking a leadership role in solving some of the solving some of the problems that face.
So let's dive right into it. Okay, so what are some of the things that you're proud of seeing Anaheim kind of take the leadership role in? And then let's talk about what are some of the challenges that you see and that you probably are addressing as part of your platform running for mayor.
Yeah, I mean, I think Anaheim is obviously, as you mentioned, a tourist and a destination city, and it makes us an international city.
Right.
It means that people from all over the world, when they come to Orange County, they're looking at Anaheim as a place to raise their family and start their first business as a citizen. And I think we've done a really good job of embracing different cultures, different people from different faith backgrounds, and being a really hospitable city. Our current mayor has done such a wonderful job of really advertising that we are a city of kindness and we're a welcoming city. And if you want to partake in the American dream, it's an Anaheim dream as well.
Right.
And I'm always very proud of how our city has been able to evolve from a German town, that's what Anaheim stands for, the home of Anna, to be a mostly German town to all the different people that make it great today.
Yeah, and people don't I think have maybe the background. I mean, I'm a history buff. I've been on the board of the San Clemente Historical Society for probably about 16 years, and so some people don't understand sort of the legacy and the history of Anaheim. That there is a German base, kind of there was a colony in there, and I don't know if there's much of that left per se, but there's an area called at least, but it's been fascinating to watch, and a good friend of mine is the Sadegis that basically were involved in the Packing House project and that whole Anaheim Boulevard, revitalization. It's really interesting to watch that town, and the diversity is just that added layer that I think makes it even more unique, not unique, but really more representative of Orange County.
So somebody
and
tweeted
the changing face of Orange
what
County.
is the ethnic background? What is the ethnic breakdown of Anaheim?
That's a good question.
So the
What's the profile today?
yeah, so the by ethnicity,
Roughly,
it's about
roughly.
36. I was about to say roughly, and then I said 36.2%.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more than
That's
that.
roughly.
Yeah, about
For a lawyer, that's
36%,
roughly,
Yeah,
right.
exactly. 36% Latino. We have less than 1% African American, and then we have 13% Asian American, and about 50% of white.
And I'm
Which
just-
includes our Arab
well,
American
yeah,
friends.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug that. Is that in that white number is actually also Arab Americans, because we don't really have a census category.
Caucasian is quite a large category.
Exactly.
It encompasses a lot of different things.
And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Rashad Al-Dabagh, who basically has been pushing to try to get that minority group basically recognized, because there's a good contingent in Anaheim, enough to basically have an area be referred to as Little Arabia, right? And so I actually love that mix. I really do, and I think it's interesting how that is finally being reflected in the sort of the districting that happened in Anaheim, and having representation from the Latin American community with Jose Moreno on there, and Mayor Tom Tate. I mean, that city of kindness. I mean, that was an awesome way to basically frame Anaheim. What are some of the challenges that you see Anaheim, or maybe in the bigger picture, Orange County, facing? I mean, we were kind of touched a little bit about the aging component. Like, we got a lot more seniors.
We're going to be one big leisure world if we're not careful. The kids can't afford to my kids can't afford to live here, and I don't want to leave here.
Well, and I don't know if that's really actually if that's the same in North County. I know it's very much this in South County. We have a large concentration of people that are seniors, 50 plus basically, and we are having an attrition of young people. That combination of not being able to afford to live here. Are moving out, ironically, to the desert like the seniors used to about 20 years ago. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing in Anaheim?
Well, just on that issue,
Yeah.
I think that it's not just an issue for Anaheim, but it is a county-wide issue in that we are one of the few, or if not the only county that's losing millennials.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it makes sense where we've just gotten to a point with our housing costs and the supply out there
Right.
where you could have somebody that is graduating from UCI and maybe a married couple both graduating from UCI, maybe both have master's degrees, but when they're saddled with $100,000-$200,000
Oh,
in
student
debt,
debt.
How do they then just look at a $701,000? I think that's the medium home price in Orange
Yeah.
County. A $700,000 starter home. It's so challenging, and I think that there's a lot that we need to do. I think in Anaheim, one of the pushes that we're going to have to really focus in is how do we partner with developers to build housing for millennials, and so that these are the neighbors that you want. These
Sure.
are the innovators.
Well,
These
future
are
leaders of the community.
they're the people that are going to be opening up your businesses. They're the neighbors that you want, and how do we provide
Your
housing
tax base,
for them?
I mean, you name it. Right?
Absolutely. And how do we provide housing that's affordable to them? And Anaheim has a lot of unique opportunities. Obviously, with a city of our size, we're very, very diverse. Our landscape. You have areas where I live in East Anaheim that is more suburban. Then you have areas in the middle where they have a lot of condominium
more
development
urban,
and more
yeah.
urban, more dense housing. And so we need to really make sure that we're a city that developers, when they're looking at, how can we build, how can we create more housing in Orange County, that Anaheim's a place that they want to go.
Well, and some people will say, well, if you have that urban component, that sort of can address the higher density element. But interestingly enough, that doesn't mean that it makes it affordable, because that's sort of a desirable kind of mixed use live work kind of environment, and developers are going in there, but it doesn't mean necessarily that those condos are affordable for.
Oh, the definition of affordable housing is, there's been so many terms since I was a land use attorney when I first came out of law school. At the time they called it workforce housing, which always made me feel like someone's coming out of a mine with a canary. But right, even the definition of Orange County of what affordable housing is going to be astronomical compared to most regions in the United States. But it's a start, and I think having more of a supply. Of people so they have options. Maybe not everybody wants to have a 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot home. Maybe somebody wants to have smaller units, and really trying to identify what the millennial market wants and what we can provide is going to be a big component when you look at planning for Anaheim for the next 40 years.
Well, I find it fascinating that we are still. I mean, we've been talking about this stuff for at least easily, conservatively, 7 years, maybe even 10 and longer, that these trends are things that we are seeing. These are realities that we're facing, and yet it blows my mind that we're still building, tract homes in the manner of single-family homes for people to raise their kids, and that seems to be the model, and yet you have situations where you have communities that are older, people are staying in their homes longer. The tax base isn't changing because there's no change of hands. The youth, to your point, how do we retain them? I don't see opportunities. I mean, Long Beach is doing an interesting thing with sort of entrepreneurship at the city level, pushing for that. But, unique opportunities where you basically bring some of that young talent, that innovative, give you an artistic or creative talent, and basically provide support for it to try to keep it in the town and kind of cater to that youth energy. It blows my mind how we are not really doing a lot of that. And I may be being unfair to some areas, maybe in North County, but South County, I don't see it. I don't see realities based on the fact that people are going to ideally give up their driving as they get older, and there's no means. I mean, my parents, we were just talking about proximity. My parents live out at the top of the hill of Salvador in San Clemente. Okay. Their independence is tied to their ability to drive. And if they decide to stop driving because of my dad basically nicking the side of the garage one time too many, which he's been doing, right? What is the alternative, right? Other than having somebody basically, now it's a care situation, but the independence of that person is now basically compromised. And so I'm not seeing policies. I tried to talk to some people that were running for city council down there and saying, hey, what about bringing some of this conversation up? I mean, these are voter bases. These are people that are, the communities are going to need to provide more services for them. They're retired. They're living in their homes longer. There's a financial impact on the communities for provision of services that is going to come from where? When all your youth and all your income taxing is going out of that city. And so I don't know. Is there a larger conversation? I mean, Anaheim is a big city. Is there a larger conversation happening in the county to some of these new realities that we're facing and addressing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Anaheim's in a bit of a unique situation in that, let's say, unlike Irvine or some cities where they have a lot of open land that they're building these single-family homes on, Anaheim's pretty landlocked. We're not going to be a city where you see a lot of these slow growth initiatives come up. But what our challenge is going to be is really looking at our underutilized commercial spaces. For instance, when I grew up, you could go down Ball Road and there would be nothing but, commercial shopping malls where there would be the local pizza parlor and there'd be the local liquor store next to the laundromat. Well, there's so many of them throughout Anaheim that are really laying vacant, which is a tragedy for Anaheim because then not only are you losing sales tax, but it's a bit of a blight.
Right.
And so I think what we're going to have to do is recognizing that those are transportation corridors.
Yeah.
We're going to need to build housing where the transportation already exists.
Smart, because you basically provide the thoroughfares from a retail perspective or from a commerce perspective, and they're there. Infrastructure is sort of in there, and retail and commercial is completely changed by things like Amazon and Google, right? And so, I mean, I'm actually ironically doing there's a conference that's taking place for the second year on hospitality at the Hilton in Irvine on the 8th of March. The California Lodging Investment Conference. And I'm moderating a panel, and one of the major things we're talking about is adaptive reuse. Because there's so much of this property. I mean, malls being put to another purpose, where it's more experiential, it's more mixed use, it's more high density. And to your point, it's right there next to an infrastructure and a transportation corridor that's already there. Yeah, that's very smart. And you're right. You guys are actually in a unique position to basically lead that in Anaheim.
Yeah, and I think that what we just have to make sure is that we fund it and we keep funding transportation so that it's affordable for everyone.
Sure.
I think if you're going to ask people, and probably for Californians in general, but especially Orange County residents asking us to get out of our car, it's going to be a lifestyle change. So we want to make it as cost effective and as easy as possible. I mean, I would really like to explore how do we connect even the 6 districts of Anaheim so that if you live in District 6 in East Anaheim, there's a way for you to get down to the packing house where you don't have to get in your car. And we need to figure out really, when you look at any type of, I think, citywide transportation plan, try to identify where are people living and where do they want to go, and then just connect those spots. And then obviously the resort district has its own way of getting the millions and millions of tourists around our city that generally don't spend as much time outside the actual resort district.
Well, they don't. Some of them don't want them to spend more time outside the resort district. I mean, that's where we want them to spend their money, right? And I get that from a business perspective. But it is interesting because also you have a drop in ridership for public transportation, for busing. I mean, some of the routes over the county have been eliminated, and yet at the same time, you have an increase in at least summer trolleys being established and rolled out in different cities.
And Laguna does a great job of that.
San Juan, Laguna, Dana Point now have one. San Clemente rolled one out last year, finally. And technically, those all could have a couple of nodes where basically they are shared hubs. And to be honest with you, unless I want to use my car for loading something, if I'm just, and this is where supposedly we are going towards more remote commuting for work, live, work close by kind of thing, which is smart because it takes the burden off our infrastructure as far as freeways, right? If that joint effort happens between the cities where we now connect these individual elements that are run and operated by the cities to where I can jump off one at the center hub and jump on another city's trolley, for example, that makes a lot of sense to me. And you guys have the 6 districts, so that would be kind of great, actually, to do.
Yeah, and it's I think it's sad that we have such an underfunded transportation system. I mean, just to give you an example, when I was in high school, I could go to the Orange Mall and pick up an OCTA bus, and it would take me straight to the beach.
Yeah.
We didn't drive, and it didn't matter that I didn't drive.
Right.
I had that ease of access. when I looked into doing that with my kids, because I want to promote public transportation and I want them to have that experience,
Right.
it was about 2.5 hours with bus changes, and it's
Yep.
$4 per person one way.
Yep.
Well, at some point, not only is that cost prohibitive,
Right.
but it's just not, there's not an ease of use there.
No, I'm going to spend. I'm not going to take 3 hours to get to somewhere who's going to spend an hour and come back.
Yeah,
right?
that can take me 20 minutes
Right.
to drive in my car.
Right.
So I think we need to remove some of those barriers in the county when we know that people want to go to the beach. Well, let's make it easy for families to get to the beach.
So what are some ideas that you have on that one? I was curious.
Well, I mean, I think that like when we did this, just to give you an example.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Orange County Fair Board.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things we started doing was partnering during the summer with OCTA in different 5 or 6 spots around the county where people could go. They could ride the bus
Yeah.
to the fairgrounds. And a part of that bus fare was less expensive, direct route, and it came with a ticket to the Orange County Fair.
Uh-huh.
But as we have gone through, we're developing, more stops, whether it be there's Santa Ana, the Mall of Orange, there's South County, there's Irvine, some of our MetroLink stations. So
Right.
figuring out where can we pick people up knowing that they want to go to the fair.
Right.
And some of these families don't want to spend that type of money on parking, and parking, can be really limited
Right.
during the high times on the weekends when
Right.
people are going to the fair. And so I think that's what we need to do is figure out
Yeah.
where do people want to go and how are we, it sounds basic, but how are we going to get them there in an affordable manner?
Well, not only does it sound basic, but the interesting thing about this is, in a way, it's not like you're basically taking the high risk of rolling out a program that doesn't exist. I mean, what you just described is exactly how I go from either Long Beach, or I've done it from Pasadena, to the Hollywood Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I basically park at the mall off. I'm going to get this wrong. Seal Beach Boulevard, I think it is. And basically, we take a train, or one of the malls there, of the 405, and we take the bus all the way up to the bowl. And there's a social component of it, which is, again, I think, an opportunity if somebody should, wanted to leverage that. There's the experience of that joint social commute up to the bowl, down. It's the same thing. It's not like somebody is taking the risk by inventing something, trying to roll it out and have a proof of concept. It already works. Just a matter of actually applying it in a manner that is appropriate for that community.
And advertising it,
And
making
advertising
sure
it.
people know it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I love talking to people from South County that
Yeah.
take the MetroLink to Ducks games. And then but what's great
Yeah.
the only reason it works is
Yeah.
because at 10:45 or 10:55 there is a train that
Yeah.
is going back to South County. How many times have you, thought about, I want to take MetroLink to the Hollywood
Right.
Bowl,
Right.
but if the MetroLink closes at 9:30, how the heck are you supposed
know-
to get
you-
home?
you-
I mean,
you
there's
know-
a lot of roadblocks that we could get rid of, knowing
Right,
oh,
right. Why don't we have more frequent runs on tracks that are already there? I mean, I have a client actually out right now up in Burbank, and so unless I am actually needing my car, I actually am willing to leave at 7 o'clock latest, or maybe a little earlier, from San Juan, which is a 10-minute drive from my home, all the way up, and Uber over, which is a 3-mile Uber, okay, to my client, and then come back. The thing about it, though, is it's inconvenient, and I feel like I have to take my car if I think that my meeting's going to run past the last hour route that I can take a train back to Union Station, and then from there back to South County. So if those routes, Ducks game, any entertainment that's happening, right? If those routes were either programmed for the benefit of that particular performance, I mean, it doesn't even have to be constantly all the time, but when you actually have an event or an activity like you're doing with the fair, basically, if those were there advertised, which again is an opportunity for advertising for businesses and other people, it's a win-win. There's a B2B component there. I would take that all day long. I mean, I would take it for every single thing, because I don't necessarily want to be in the car for 3 hours when I can basically be catching up on some stuff during.
when you can read. I
I
mean,
could
when
read.
when I got hired, when I first became a federal prosecutor, I was in downtown Los Angeles at the federal courthouse in downtown LA.
Yeah.
And I thought, the people's immediate reaction was, you have to drive to LA every day? And I said, no, I take the 5:10 train in the morning. I'm in Union Station in an hour. Can you imagine driving to downtown LA in 1 hour? I was in downtown LA. I could walk to my office. and take the train home. And so it was a chance for me to work, read the paper. You develop a train family, which, you know, we celebrate each other's birthdays on the train, because you see this, you know, the same people every day. And it's very, you know, it becomes very easy once you know, kind of make that decision that that's going to be a priority of how you use your time.
It's just really funny because yesterday that's exactly what happened. Because kids take the train from South County to Santa Ana, to the art school, and one of the kids, it was her birthday, and I happened to be sitting in the car, and they were sitting in this grouping. I had no clue it was her birthday, right? But then as we pulled into that station, the conductor actually on the PA system wished her a happy birthday. She got all blushy and everything, you know, as they were walking up the train. So it was very cute, very nice, and yes, so it was a nice unifying way. I was like, wow, that was cool. I would have never experienced that had I not taken the train that morning.
Well, it is funny. You know, I think we as humans like to think we're so independent and whatnot, but I can tell you as a train devotee, you take the same car at the same time and you sit in the same seat.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not so original. I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah, I'm unique, but
just like everybody else.
The seat has my same imprint on it from sitting in all the time.
Quick question. Somebody want to know about Arctic. Nobody ever talks about Arctic.
Well, I wanted to ask about that. What are your thoughts about Arctic?
I think it's beautiful for a train stop, but I think the problem is, you know, we spent a lot of, you know, there's a lot of transportation money involved, and we built this beautiful building, but really it's a train stop. It's not a station. There's not like Union Station where you have 5 or 6, 8 tracks going at the same time. And so it makes me sad with all the, you know, the resources that were devoted when you go through there.
In fact, the track is away from it.
I mean, one of the things is when I go there, I don't even go through Arctic because I park in the back because it's closer.
It's the craziest thing. I'm a train devotee too. My little 4-year-old grandson loves trains, so we visit all the stations and just sit and watch the trains go. He just loves it. And as beautiful as the building is, it seems like it was poorly designed because you have to walk up to the 3rd floor, across a flying bridge over where the buses pull in the back, and then go down an elevator when you could have you can literally walk there faster on the ground than going up and over this thing.
So what was the story there? What's the deal with Arctic? Why was it like this? I mean, obviously it
and the restaurants face the front, not the back, like a true.
Yes.
You think that, and if you go to the Orange train station, the restaurants face the back, so you can watch the trains. Or in San Juan Capistrano, they face the trains. Here they face the front, so it's more like an airport. It feels and looks like an airport, and doesn't seem to capture the whole experience they could have done, as beautiful as the building is.
Well, and what lessons could we learn? Because if we're talking about increasing transportation options, increasing that kind of mass transit, right? What lessons could be learned out of this? Because that's a pretty big example of something standing. I mean, you can't miss it, right? What happened there? What could we learn from and do better?
Well, I think what we need to do, again, it just comes back to the basic point of assessing where do people want to go and how do we get them there, right? So you built Arctic, and there was a lot of talk at the time about that was going to be the hub for high-speed rail. Well, high-speed rail hasn't been built, and by the time, if high-speed rail is built, and if it comes through Anaheim, that station's going to be so outdated, it's not going to be able to handle its own dedicated line. So I think that, you know, it was something that was a bit of a boondoggle, and, you know, now Anaheim has to spend money out of its general fund to operate it. And so you look at
substantial is from what I understand.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, every dime that we're spending to operate this beautiful empty building is something that's not going to our local schools. It's not going to parks. So I think we need to just make sure that if we're going to build something, it's for a technology that there is, 1, a need, and 2, already exists.
Was it just, you know, kind of like sold as this sort of great promise that basically just was either too early? Or?
It was supposed to be Union Station. It was supposed to be something that was not only an iconic building, but it would be a hub for all these different forms of transportation, high-speed rail, Metrolink, buses, and everything else, and you'd connect and go. It'd be a vibrant place with restaurants and everybody go there. But the way it's designed, it feels just like an airport.
Is it fully leased out?
No.
No. I know there's a great restaurant called Oyster Bar on the 2nd floor.
I've been there. Wonderful restaurant. Everybody should go there.
Yeah, and I think if you're taking from South County the Metrolink up to a Ducks game, it's a great place to stop. But I think they've really struggled with getting foot traffic in there, and those restaurants obviously depend on foot traffic. But if there's only one line, there's only one track, and
Yeah.
that only comes by every hour, let's say, or every 20 minutes. I think there's one northbound and one southbound track. That's just
there
not
is.
generating enough foot traffic to really help these small businesses and these restaurants
Well,
succeed.
and you don't have the repetitive all day all night runs either. So there's a period in the middle there that's nothing. So again, when
And again, it's
when
a
commercial real
three-story.
estate-
It's
well,
3 stories, so I don't know. There's nothing up on the 3rd story except the walkway over where the buses. And the only reason it was made 3 stories was so that the buses could pull around the back.
You guys should just convert that into like creative office space.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it continues to
Not-
lose
or a
money,
mixed
we're going
use,
to
yeah.
have to think of something because it's not
What does
sustainable.
What does it cost the city? Do you know?
It's I believe $2 or $3 million a
year.
Yeah,
To operate.
that there's a deficit.
Wow.
We used to get some of that money from like the Anaheim Transportation Fund,
Yeah.
but the last couple years they haven't kind of covered the delta between what the city's responsible to paying and what the actual operating costs are. So yeah, that's something. Again, it's another thing that's coming out of
That's
Anaheim's general fund.
That's $3 million loss basically on that thing on a yearly basis. Money that could be.
And they are trying to be creative and try to do some naming and like naming rights for
Oh,
the building, so that
yeah.
it's not just the Anaheim, the Regional Transportation Intermodal Center.
It has all these
You know what?
innovative.
could be-
Ashley, she just feeds me the next line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So speaking of naming rights,
Okay.
across the street, what is the latest on the Angels?
Yeah, right now that they don't, nothing's going on. There were a while they were trying to do negotiations. It's a city-owned stadium about whether Moreno was going to stay or not. That created quite a controversy in
Yep.
Anaheim
Yep.
about whether he was going to be able to lease all of that property for $1 a year. And when that deal went south, I think a lot of the negotiation stopped. I think that whoever the next mayor is, that's going to be one of the priorities, is to really bring the Angels back to the negotiating table and try to figure out a deal that works for everybody. I think it's a prideful thing of our city to have this type of internationally known entertainment complex. The stadium, figuring out what the fair value of the stadium is, with operating expenses, and figuring out what is something that works for the Angels, but isn't done on the backs of Anaheim taxpayers. Because everyone comes from all over Southern California.
And
to
didn't they
go
want
to
to
the stadium.
redevelop the whole area around? Who was going to redevelop the area around there?
He did, and that was one of the strange things that kind of came out during the deal, is that the Angels had a contract to remain in the city for, we'll use round numbers, for let's say 30 years,
Yeah.
but he would have retained the development rights for decades after that.
Right.
So he could have technically picked up the team, moved it, and still had a ground, still basically had total control of that property for the $1 a year figure that was put in by the city. And that just doesn't make any sense for Anaheim taxpayers. If everyone from around the county is coming, you have to realize that the Anaheim taxpayers are the ones that are paying for that. And I would love nothing more. I went to school on the East Coast. And so when we would go to, outside of Boston, when we would go to Patriot games, if you see what Bob Kraft has done around that Gillette Stadium and created a real year-round entertainment complex, it's unbelievable. And I think that would be something that would be really wonderful for Anaheim. It's a great revenue generator for the city. There's a lot of creative ways now. You don't have to have the sprawling, single parking. You can do stacked parking. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a city and do and work with to make the absolute highest and best use for that property.
The funny thing is, I think I've heard it, and it's not just Anaheim, but I've heard it, and hopefully we're seeing less and less of this, is that there, for a while in Orange County, there was this sort of sense of entitlement relevant to land use. And here I am, and I basically got a stadium in here, and so you got to give me the sweetheart of the deal of all deals, and then basically, to your point, I'm going to hold and retain rights to this thing, and it's like, well, what about the citizens of Anaheim? Like, in this particular case, it's on the back of the people that this is an asset that is basically people owned, and basically we're turning it into privatized, open-ended, forever. And it's interesting because I also know that you guys did something last year, which I was very impressed by, and to be honest, I was very inspired by, and I'm hoping that we can actually try to do it in South County. but it was your sunshine or what is it?
Sunshine
was it
ordinance.
ordinance? Yeah, it was an ordinance, sunshine ordinance. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I thought that was a really great step for Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they're trying to do is really make it clear, and in several cities in North County have done this. I'm not sure about all the cities in South County, about really who is donating.
We're the deep south. It takes us a while.
The deep south, right?
Really, kind of shining light on what lobbyists are interacting, not just with campaigns, but with the city council people.
Yeah.
And it put in some restrictions about who can work for if you get a budget as a mayor or as a council person for your staff person, should that person be a paid lobbyist, or
Right.
should someone that is high up in the planning commission be able to then turn around and take a job with a developer when 6 weeks ago they were approving whether or not this developer's deal is going to get through.
Right.
And I think it's just really trying to just shine light on how cities work and make cities as accountable to the citizens and the taxpayers as
Right.
possible.
Well,
and it
and-
seems like common sense, but it's a struggle. I know Santa Ana has a bit. They have a bit of a variation on it,
Right.
where if somebody has donated more than $250 to your campaign, you cannot vote on their issues for a
Right.
whole year. So
Right.
everyone in Santa Ana gets $249 checks from a lot of these
Right.
people that play heavy in politics.
Well, in some cases, it's not even. I mean, for people to say, "Oh, it can't be." I mean, it's rational behavior. What you're talking about? Why do you even need an ordinance? Well, because in a lot of cases, it's not even known. Like these are not even disclosed relationships or connections between people.
Well, we're a
And
couple
so
of
this
the
at least forces that to the surface and sort of makes it transparent.
didn't a couple of the city, I don't know if it was city council people or whatever, there was something that came out where they were employing some big public affairs
was it? Do we know?
agencies
What was
to
it
as
that
as
drove it?
their staff, as their
Correct.
right.
Correct. And so, the other side of the argument was that people thought it was politically motivated to go after certain council people and their staff, and I think the argument was no. If your paid staffer is a lobbyist that's lobbying the city on other issues, should you be in possession of certain confidential information
Sure.
that should only be known to city staff? I mean, I think it does raise some arguments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people in political public service are there to do the right thing, and they're there
be of
help.
service. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They're there to do the right thing. They're taking times away from their careers, their family, to
Right.
try to help their hometowns. However, I think if you're not doing anything wrong, then lift up the hood and let all the citizens and the
Yeah, what do you have
taxpayers
to
see what you're doing.
What do you have to hide if there's nothing wrong? What do you care if people are looking? It's like open books, right? Here's my books. There you go.
Exactly.
Do you guys have term limits in Anaheim?
We do. So the mayor's race that's going to be taking place in November is going to be an open seat. Mayor Tate is finishing up his second term in 8 years in Anaheim. And the reason it kind of shaped up, people were looking to what a lot of the current city council people were going to do, but there's a 10-year limit. So if you've done 2 terms, you're 8 years on city council, you can't run for mayor because you'd only be able to serve 2 years of the 4-year term. So it shaped up pretty interestingly this year. So it's going to be.
So it's not just limited to the mayor. In fact, your term of service on the council also factors into that term limit.
Correct.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I mean, I think that's something that
I think
our
it's-
charter needs to maybe look at. Should your time, because you don't want to have someone that has served 4 or 8 years on city council and done a wonderful job be necessarily precluded
Right.
from then moving up into the mayor's seat. However, the way our charter is right now, that's the way it's set up.
I'll tell you something, Ashley. It's sort of a philosophical argument for me on that one, and I'm not just saying on Anaheim. It's just in general, right, in terms of term limits, because there's a part of me that says, if you have somebody that has basically done a good job, and is basically kept in by the voters' choice, citizens keep, that's fine. I understand that there's an investment, there's a learning through the doing that now we don't want to lose in terms of experience that benefits the city.
Institutional
Institutional
knowledge,
action,
right.
You're right. I understand that. But at a certain point, I also think that without some sort of term limit, we sometimes maybe have people that could be of service discouraged from basically participating, and the process becomes very expensive.
because
Because
incumbents
now
always
now,
win.
Now,
Right.
now it's an incumbency situation. Now it's, the minute I'm in there after a certain point, immediately I'm now basically just running for re-election. And so I think a balance somewhere in the middle, somewhere there, is actually healthy. But I agree with you. I hear it. It's kind of a tough one, and I don't know that we've really had as a county. Maybe certain cities have tackled it, but the minute I say term limits, everybody looks at me and goes, "No, no, no, no. Somebody does a good job. We don't want to basically lose them."
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difference between Anaheim that has had, at least since I have been able to vote, several mayors, as opposed to Santa Ana that has had Mayor Polito doing his service to the city of Santa Ana
Right.
for over 2 decades.
Right.
You can argue that nobody knows Santa Ana like Mayor Polito,
You're right.
and so that's a good thing for the city.
Right.
But if you were going to ask the next generation
Right.
to step up and
Yep.
to serve, then you got to make sure that there is some type of pathway where they can, use their skills and they can get involved.
Right.
I mean, just think of the difference between the generations that are technology natives
Sure.
versus people that aren't. And that's a generational shift. So if you want, the next generation to step up and to show and to be more a face of what the world looks like now, then
Right.
I think term limits are a good idea.
So it's interesting because what you're talking about, and we were just touching on earlier, wasn't necessarily in the political sense of the word, but relevant to potential opportunities for work, for starting businesses, and so forth. It sort of stems from the same source, right? You have to have a conscious awareness as a community, I think, of how to provide opportunities to lift up people, to give them a sense that they can participate in the process, be it of being of service, of community service, public service, community leadership, and if what is perceived as an entrenched, enclosed circle, then it's understandable that people shy away from basically participating.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that is part of leadership. That's, I think, for me, as a measure, when I look at that, whether it's a company that's doing it, whether it's a city council, whatever, is I really respect leadership that understands that really realizes that this is something that has to be a legacy that is handed over. There has to be some sort of exit plan for me, and basically encouragement of somebody else to participate and be of service or be leading in whatever capacity it is that we're talking about. I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think, again, interestingly enough, I think Anaheim is in a situation where it's leading a lot in that capacity.
Yeah, and I think we need to realize that, I've heard the argument where people will say, we have term limits. It's called voting every 4 years. If you don't, you don't want that person, then kick them out. And I think that that's such a unrealistic expectation for our citizens. I think most people try to stay as informed about local issues and even national issues as they can, but when there's so many things between work and raising your family,
who has the
you
time?
can't expect everyone to
right.
know everything about the city of Anaheim. And so I like that kind of built-in, yes, there's already accountability, but kind of that built-in push to really bring in the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something, it's a leadership style that I really look forward to bringing to the city government as well. When you look at a lot of leadership in the bigger jobs inside of city government, we have right now we have a interim city manager, but it's a strong city manager position when it's permanently held. And do you want to, have an environment where people feel comfortable that they are going to get promoted up from within? Or do you want to have someone that is known for taking people out of other cities and then just laterally letting them move into those leadership positions? And I'd really like to work with inside even our city structure of making people feel like, hey, if I'm going to devote and go into public service, because working for the government, it's public service.
Right.
I did it as a prosecutor, and there is an economic difference between being a private attorney and being a government attorney, and it's the same thing for people that are in city government. And letting them have that stability, or at least have that dream that if you devote your life to working in Anaheim in code enforcement or in our utilities, or you're fixing trucks as one of our mechanics out in the yards, the better you do and the longer you stay with us, we're going to promote you up in the ranks.
Go ahead, Paul.
One question, one clarification. Somebody wanted to know exactly how the race for mayor works in Anaheim. In some cities, you elect council people, and they elect the mayor and rotate it throughout the
That's
council.
the way it is down south.
in Anaheim, you're saying, is it different? It's a direct election of the mayor?
It is different. So we are an independently elected mayoral seat. So now that we've had the change to districts,
Sure.
which is something that I know you've talked about on the show before, there are 6 council districts
Yeah.
which elect their own representatives, and then the mayor is independently elected citywide and holds that position for 4 years. So other cities, let's say Tustin, you only vote for city council, and then they rotate amongst themselves.
So interestingly, I think this is the first. Isn't this the first mayoral campaign after districting?
Yes, it would be.
So that's going to
Yeah.
be that's going to be interesting.
And are there any other at-large council representatives, or are they all? Are there just? I don't know how many council people there are, and are they all assigned to a district?
So right now we're half and half. So it went from 5 to 7, and we have 3
Because you're
people.
transitioning from one
Correct.
system to the other.
So we still have 2 people that are on the city council that are technically at-large city council people, but come November, those 2 districts are going to then be elected by their district.
Correct. Yeah.
And so eventually, the only
We're in the midst of the transition.
the mayor would be the only one that represents the city as a whole.
When the
Correct.
district, correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, but when the districting went into effect, there were people seated. There was a people ran for those districts, and they were seated, and then there was a blind poll. And some people actually were, I think Jose Moreno
Unfortunately,
drew the short
straw.
the short straw. Yeah, he's a friend of mine and a friend of the show's, and we've had him here before. But yeah, so he's now 2 years later, he's going to run again.
Yeah, it's like Congress.
Yeah, exactly. So
continually running.
it is going to be interesting though to watch, because it didn't dawn on me until just now that this is actually the first time that Anaheim will be electing a mayor with a district.
And I think people, obviously had very passionate opinions about moving to districts.
Oh my God!
And I said, well, listen, people, I do believe that we all, as council people or as the mayor, need to be listening to all 6 districts and the needs of all the residents. But if you look at the council, and 4 out of the 5 live within blocks of each other, and maybe can't come from similar backgrounds, that's not really reflective of a city as diverse as Anaheim. And it's also, to me, really took a lot of not a lot, but it took some of the money out of politics.
Yep.
Because if you think about, I'm a school teacher, making $40,000-$50,000 a year. I want to run and serve my city on school board or on city council. I'm going to have to raise $100,000 to run an at-large campaign versus maybe a smaller amount if I'm only trying to run amongst my neighbors
Where people
and
know me.
the people where I'm active and I'm coaching Little League. It just makes, I think, government, it's easier for people from diverse walks of life to be able to participate and have a chance.
It kind of brings it back to the real spirit of it, doesn't it? I mean, it's really being representative of the people versus it's a position that I'm going to run for because of all the influence I'm going to be able to have. It's an interesting. I think it was a very healthy move, and I don't know that Anaheim had a choice because there was the potential of a legal action because of the fact that was it ACLU that basically was talking about lack of representation.
Right, and the people that were in charge,
yeah.
people were in charge of the time, because the case stemmed out of Palmdale, the ACLU case where Palmdale went to districts. But they spent millions of dollars fighting it, and it was only when they knew they were going to lose that they said, "Okay, we're going to do the right thing." It's like
the
really?
People's Map. I remember this. I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember just being coming from the legal background, consulted about what retired judges do we want to be sitting on this committee, and who do we want to be drawing this districts, and that was its own battle, right? About what these districts were gonna look like.
People, I mean, let's face it, right? The reality is anybody who's basically entrenched and has influence and oversight or play and perceived power, whatever it is, they're not going to relinquish that easily. I mean, if that's the system and you're trying to basically go in a different path, change is something that is resisted in those situations. So kudos to Anaheim. Honestly, I watched it kind of from afar, and I have some people that live in that area, so I kind of went to some of these meetings. It really was an amazing, it gave me a lot of faith in the process when I saw that happen, because here was a situation where the will of the people won out. And there was no guarantees. Who knows if it was going to be a successful adventure or not, right? So, and it's still kind of a fledgling thing, but it is. I'm going to be fascinated. I'm kind of a junkie like that, I'm going to be fascinated to watch that mayor race. Basically, now run.
One more clarification: the mayor's race is a nonpartisan race.
Correct. Municipal races are nonpartisan. which is
Okay.
the way it should be. I mean, I try to
Sure.
explain that, it doesn't take a lot to scratch the surface and probably find out what I'm registered. But I ask people, is there a Democratic or a Republican way to fill your potholes? And is there a Democratic way to pick up your trash and negotiate a trash contract versus a Republican way? I mean, these are all basic issues. People on the municipal level, we all share the same goals. We want clean parks that our kids can play in. We want the street lights working, and we want the city council and the mayor working for us. And those aren't partisan issues. I get it. I know you had some of the congressional candidates on, and I think national issues, yes, that comes into play, but it really shouldn't. We've gone way too partisan.
I couldn't agree more. And I think even for those congressional candidates that we've had on, I think the interesting thing is when it comes to Orange County has a changing face. And with 30+% basically being independent or non-party affiliated, it is an interesting time in Orange County to watch how that pans out, because they will lean one way or the other, but it's not really red shirt or blue shirt anymore. And you basically, as a candidate, I think, are going to have to appeal to people based on issues. You're going to have to appeal to people based on who you are versus, the endorsement you get from one party or another. That's like, okay, great, you tick that box, but then what else? And I think that is a healthy part of democracy. I mean, I think that you will see where it leads to in Orange County, but it's
You mean
definitely
we
not
might
the way
pick
it was 20 years
candidates
ago.
based on their qualifications and not
Heaven
the
forbid.
letter after their name? Come on.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm so excited about my race and what I can contribute to my city, because I am a hometown girl, and so the people on both sides of the aisle, the people that maybe traditionally were on the other side of the aisle, are not supporting me because of my party affiliation. They're supporting me because they've known me since I was a little kid.
And what you stand for.
And our kid, I went to school with their
Yeah.
son, or I lead their children, and I'm a Girl Scout troop leader, and I lead their kids in my troop. I mean, that's really what it should be on a municipal layer.
So what made you run? Again, she just opens these doors for me.
That's
So
right.
what made you run now?
So have always been very involved in the political process,
Yeah.
and I've always been very happy supporting people that I thought were serving Anaheim in the right way. And I was very supportive both of Mayor Tate and of Dr. Moreno when he ran, because they really talked about neighborhoods and they talked about issues. And when I'm speaking of term limits, when we looked at Mayor Tate being termed out, and I started really scratching the surface about, okay, well, who's going to replace him, and who's going to talk about the values that he talks about, being a city of kindness and being a true, because I do believe it's political public service.
Sure.
If you're going into this for any other reason than to really serve and give back to your community, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And who's going to kind of carry that mantle that he speaks so eloquently about? And I just felt a real calling. Some of the people that were being discussed were on the city council when I was just out of college. I mean, it's something that, are you running because you want to serve Anaheim, or are you running because you want to be in office? And that's a very big distinction for me. I want people to say, that vote for me because they know that nobody else in the race loves Anaheim the way I love Anaheim, and cares
completely
about the
agree.
people in Anaheim the way I care about people in Anaheim.
Yeah, that's the only way that I have been an independent, non-party affiliate for a long time, and that's how I measure. Okay, it's like, are you going in there because at least for the time being you genuinely have a desire to be of service, or are you going in there because you have political ambitions that go beyond the seat? Because again, what am I doing voting you in? I'd rather have somebody in there that's really is immersed in the interest of being of service, of taking care of the issues that are at hand, to being proactive about it, to be open-minded, to be big picture about it. I mean, we all are different in our degrees, but I couldn't agree with you more. And I had to ask that question because you're homegrown in Anaheim, you've lived there, your parents lived there, and it's like, why now? And that explains why now. How many people are running, Ashley?
So right now, I call it my clown car. There's 5 people in my clown car. So I'm just, we don't have a...
It's a clown car kind of year, I think.
Yeah, well, at least I'm driving the car.
You're
That's what I
driving the
like
car?
to say. I'm
Okay.
driving the car. But yeah, there's no primary. So unlike, I think, after June 5th, there will be a lot of people
top
no
two kind of
longer
thing,
running
yeah.
for office. Anaheim's not going to have that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a true pony race to the finish line. So it'll
Interesting.
be, if there's all 5 people that are now have said they are going to run,
Yeah.
actually file, then yeah, whoever gets, if you get 20.1%,
When's
you're the mayor.
When's the deadline for filing?
It starts in July. It's
Okay.
mid-July for a couple of weeks, and I don't recall the exact date.
And is it that late because there's no primary? It's kind of like a long...
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So I know that for the congressional races, filing just opened, so people are running to the registrar now. Yeah, we're not until July. And I think that's why it's such an interesting opportunity for me, is that you were talking about, are you doing what's best for the city, is you don't want someone in there that's a placeholder position. You want someone with a stake in the game, and the fact that I'm raising my kids in the city. It does matter to me what our
you
parks
have an
budget
absolute
is.
impact on your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when the recession hit and our libraries were closed, that directly impacted my life. And we need to, I think we just really need to look to leaders in these nonpartisan races that truly talk about what residents want.
I get to ask,
Paul keeps moving his arm
I
even
get to
higher
ask-
and bigger because I'm ignoring him.
I get to ask the last question as we wrap up here. What's the one? Several people have said along in tweets or whatever. What's the issue? If people haven't paid attention to the race and don't really know what the issues
What is
are,
a pressing issue?
what's the issue or two that everybody should be paying attention
Well,
to?
if you look at the front page of Voice of OC or the papers this morning, homelessness is really the biggest issue right now that's affecting the citizens of Anaheim. It is a county problem and it's a regional problem, and we are really hopeful that after spending all day yesterday in federal court with Judge Carter, who I worked for and was able to appear in front of when I was a prosecutor, that he's going to really force the county, because the next mayor of Anaheim 100% is going to have to be an advocate for our neighborhoods and for our parks and for our businesses. The county has all the state and federal funding. When they control the purse strings, they have not only a financial but a moral obligation to solve this crisis, and not just say we're going to close the riverbed, scatter everybody into the streets and into the parks and into our commercial areas, and punt it to the city that don't have the general fund dollars to fix the situation.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Right. So
And Anaheim, I have to admit, Anaheim's done a great job. We've been a leader on this issue, and that
Yes,
we
you
have
have.
Kramer Place, where we have 100 beds open,
Yep.
and another 100 beds are going to be coming online. And the really low impact complaints from the residents, because it's all referral based. We did it right, and we just need to really look to the other 34 cities around Orange County to say, look, at this model works. And there wasn't a lot of blowback.
Wasn't
There's nothing to be
Fullerton?
afraid of.
Isn't Fullerton going to build a facility too, or the
Yeah, they're
counties?
looking, and Santa Ana is
So
looking.
it's again, it's a resistance to change, right? I mean, here's a perfect example where I think when it comes to that issue, personally, we have been kind of immorally in denial as a county. We have had our heads buried in the
Because they're
sand.
down in the
We have been driven-
riverbed. We don't see them. You drive right
but
by them.
they're in the
Anaheim sees them.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly, because people are jogging and taking the trails and all the
Well,
other
and they've
stuff,
been
yeah.
in that riverbed forever. It's just only when they got basically the bad optics on this thing that they decided to move. And when deciding to move, they weren't driven. They didn't drive themselves into a solution mindset. They basically just drove themselves into a clear out mindset.
Yeah,
And
push them
that's
away.
the beauty. I was, yesterday, I've never been so proud to be a lawyer and to be a trial lawyer, because honestly, it took a federal judge to say, no one's getting off the hook. You're all going to stay here until you find a solution, and I'm going to make it as, inconvenient for you as possible until you release some of these strings. And that's really what the beauty of the law. As much as people like to give lawyers a hard time,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for lawyers, you would have anarchy and complete, moral ineptitude and response rates to actual societal ills.
Let's give people the website, Ashley, and how can they be involved in your
Oh,
campaign?
wonderful. Yeah. So follow me on Facebook. It's Ashley Aitken. My website
And
is...
spell that for everybody. if
Oh,
they
I
can't
know,
spell
right?
it.
Neither of mine is easy. It's
Right.
ashleyaiken.com, but I am an ASHLEIGH, and Aiken is AITKEN. But the only good thing about that, if you do Google me, I'm the only Ashley Aiken.
Well, and
If
you
I was Jane Smith, it might be harder to find me.
Well, and you enter it one time, and then save
Then you know.
bookmark that, and just come back to it. And how can people get involved with
No,
you?
please go to the website, sign up. We're always looking for volunteers. We're looking for people to join the team. We put out information on a daily basis
it's a very
about
good
what the
website.
issues are and what we're trying to accomplish. And yeah, we just look forward to having people join us on this journey. It's going to be a great day for Anaheim.
I would love to have you come back, and I didn't want to put you on the spot and have you give me answers on the homeless issue, but I think it is a critical issue for Orange County.
Absolutely, and
and,
I've been involved with it since I was Orange County Bar President in 2015. So
So-
I've seen it just balloon
Right.
from a few people outside our county courthouse to what it is today.
Well,
So-
and I think it's intertwined into housing. It's intertwined into other issues as well, including
Economic drug abuse, everything else.
Well,
you
but
know.
it's all. I mean, when $86,000 a year basically qualifies you for aid in Orange County, I mean, we have multi layers of this that but if not by the grace of God, a lot of people are on this, on the razor's edge of being homeless. And, one medical expense too high, boom, you're off over that. And so, and it could be veterans. I mean, there was a beautiful photo exhibit at the Art Institute. I'm going to plug a school that I basically teach at, but the Art Institute, where the gentleman basically took photographs of veterans that are homeless. And they're veterans from multiple wars.
Big problem. We've had other people in
black and white
about
photos.
that. Yeah.
I'll actually probably try to post this thing on our show. I've been looking for a reason for why, kind of to showcase it. But, there's a human component. And our heads have been buried in the sand on this. So I would love to have you come back.
And it's morally unacceptable.
Morally unacceptable. Absolutely.
I mean, there is no other side of this issue.
What happened to my brother's keeper?
Yeah, if you
And
have any veterans
Can
outside.
I make one other observation?
I mean, we're bringing it back around to the holy day, right? To Ash
Yeah,
Wednesday.
right,
But
that's
it's like,
true.
whatever happened to that?
I sit here in this seat all day long, 5 days a week, and listen to all the businesses and politicians come through here.
For you.
And the one issue that seems to unite people in a world where nobody's united these days on anything. You can't get the left and the right, the R's and the D's to talk about anything, is homelessness. You've got United Way, you've got cities left and right saying this isn't just a moral obligation, it's an economic problem as well here. It's a social problem. And I've never seen such a coalition of people. It heartens me to see people working together across different economic, social, and political
There's hope
strains.
for us, yes.
Yeah, it's the number one thing people want to talk about.
It is. It is, really.
So
is.
anytime you have time, and thank you for making the time. I know you're very busy. I would love to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Ashley, for being here. Check out the website and go participate in the democratic process by getting involved. Don't just read about it on Facebook.
And when it's just one election, there's no primaries, anything else. It's just
Correct. Yes.
It's just November.
Yeah,
Correct.
but it's for somebody who's been involved in campaigns. There's a lot of learning, a lot of experience. It's a rewarding process, even if you're not the one running, to be part of that. I wasn't born in the United States. I grew up a good amount of my life not in the United States, and to be in a situation in a country where you can participate in that and actually see the impact of your involvement and having a sense of reward of being part of that system and part of the process, I encourage everybody to go volunteer.
Amen.
And I tell people, I think when people say, "Oh my gosh, how is it going? What do you feel? How do you do it?" And I said, no matter what happens, I have met people through this process that probably I would never have met, and I've spent my entire life in Anaheim. And so just that, to me, I've already won. I've already been so blessed to meet so many wonderful people doing great things in Anaheim. And so I look forward to serving them as their mayor.
Well, and we Paul touched on it. In a time where there's a lot of divisiveness, and a time when there's a sort of a lot of negativity, there's a lot of sensationalization that we get bombarded with. I can tell you from personal experience, if you do volunteer and get involved in the process, you will find hope and faith in your involvement. Mm-hmm. That right now seems very bleak, okay? And it's not delusion. It's actually being that close to the source of the process. You really engage your hope. You re-engage your sense of purpose. And who knows? Maybe you'll run. Whoever that person is volunteering today could be the next person that basically runs for office to be of service to others. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And everybody join us next Wednesday. We got a great month. Next week we have John Owings from who basically is going to come talk about successful aging. He's done an app to help seniors basically have more independence. And then we have Dr. Jose Moreno on the 28th. And we are booking up fast for March, so anybody's interested, love to have you back. And join us on Facebook at OC Talk Radio, Facebook page or YouTube channel. Join us on the Raad Life, RAADLIFE. Drop me an email at Rod, Gantos, GHANTOUS @gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. You have any ideas for guests? We're always looking. This is really a variety show, but everything that we do, we started off doing seniors and things that impact us on that as we get older, but it's all policy. Everything is interconnected. All local news is the real news, and so
all politics is local.
All politics is
Tip
local.
O'Neill, I love it.
And I do want to say thank you to Paul, and you better go to church and get your ashes.
I'd better go right after this.
Thanks,
And then
everybody.
you have to send me pictures of it, just so I know. There's accountability.
Yes.
Yeah, you send it to me and to Ashley.
Exactly.
Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the Raad Life Radio Show with your host and age explorer, Rod Gantos, brought to you on the one and only octalkradio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and